everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with a different style of video today, and I really hope you like it, because what we're doing today is we're doing Classic versus Contrast Plus, or rather, Contrast Plus versus Classic. Yes, today we're painting up two Heavy Intercessors, and we're going to be doing one in a Contrast Plus style, and one with Classic paints. Not a single drop of contrast will touch our Classic painted Marine. So we're going to be painting them side by side on camera. You'll be able to see both happening at exactly the same time. So it's a very different format to what we normally do around here. And the purpose of this video is just to demonstrate what it looks like when you compare the two recipes next to each other. We're not trying to see who's a winner. Although for me it's contrast paint. But for you it might be classic painting. And ultimately I just want to show you what you can achieve by using either or indeed a blend of the two. So remember, this is not a competition. So yes, I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you like what I come out with. I'm fascinated by the results, and I haven't done something like this in about 3 or 4 years, so it's really interesting to see how far we've come, because we've got new contrast paints, we've got the same old recipes as before, but we're closer than ever to being able to achieve that classic look. If you like this video, then hit the like button, and if you're like me, then hit the subscribe button. It's a really good way to support me for free, and I'm getting very, very close to 35,000 subscribers at this point, so I really appreciate your help in getting me over the line to that wonderful milestone. And finally, just before you sit back and relax, we have one last thing to do, and that is to tell you about our sponsor. It's been a little while since I talked to you about serious readers, but it hasn't been all that long since I had to use my eyes. As you may or may not know, I do a lot of fine detail work with my tiny paintbrushes, a lot of staring at computer screens, reading emails and rules and Warhammer narrative bits that, honestly, it's a miracle my eyesight is as good as it is. Well, in the past few months I've noticed a considerable difference in my levels of eye strain, and that's because of the high definition light from serious readers that they very kindly sent me to try out. It uses proprietary daylight wavelength technology to replicate the daylight spectrum as closely as possible, which makes a huge difference on the peepers at 4 AM after a 16-hour painting session. Built right here in the UK, Serious Readers is a British company pioneering research into improving sight through shedding better light, relying on replicating the natural daylight spectrum that our eyes have evolved to use. They offer a 5-year warranty and are recommended by over 500 independent opticians. They're also super cool folks with excellent customer service, so much so that when I asked for a colder bulb, they sent me one, along with a diffuser, to make my life even better. Check out Serious Readers today, and if you pick one up and use offer code SR209 at checkout, they'll throw in a free compact light with any purchase in the Serious Lights range, and free international shipping with the offer code. Find out more in the links below. So here we are then, finally ready to get started painting. We've got both of our Heavy Intercessors. They've come out of the Strike Force Agastus Boxset that Games Workshop sent me early, so a massive thank you to them for that, because they've made this video possible. And I've primed them both in Grey Seer. Now we're going to be showing every layer that we do, and well, there's no time like the present to kick things off. So on the left hand side we have our Contrast Plus Marine, and on the right hand side we have our Classic Painted Marine. Now the first thing we're going to do with our Contrast Plus Marine is we're going to take Baal Red, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the armour using a medium layer brush. As you can see, I'm just going to start down there on the foot. And for the Classic Marine, the first colour we're going to be using there for the red armour is Mephiston Red, and we are also going to be applying this with a medium layer brush. We just want to get this all over, and well, we'll come right back with the next one. Once that Baal Red is all applied and the Mephiston Red, what we're going to do on our Contrast Marine is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Blood Angels Red, and we're going to apply this all over the top of all of that red armour, whereas on our Classic Marine we need to do another layer of Mephiston Red just to make sure we've got a nice strong coat and we haven't kind of missed any patchy bits that you sometimes get, and you have to do those 2 thin coats. Just looking at our Classic Marine for the moment, what we need to do now is shade it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade. We're going to apply this as a recess shade to all of the recesses around the model. So we're just going to take a small amount of this on our brush and run it into any of the little grooves and crevices all the way around all of the armour. Now, if you do make any mistakes, you can just tie this up with Mephiston Red once again. However, we're not going to show that on screen because I feel like that's a little bit unfair because, you know, I could just make tons of mistakes and prove that classic painting is worse, which isn't fair. So just take your time here, be steady, and if you do make any mistakes, do just grab a little bit of Mephiston Red and cover over any dark splodges. So with that recessed shade applied, both of our red recipes are now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. There's a little bit more warmth in the contrast one on the left hand side and a little colder on this one on the right hand side in the classic style. But they both look really, really good, and there's not too much difference here. Like I said, there's just that slightly difference in tone over the same primer as well, which is very, very interesting. At least to me it is. Do you find it interesting? Let me know in the comments. Alright, next up we've got the black details. So for our Contrast Plus Marine, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Black Legion. I'm going to apply this all over the top of areas such as the gun casing and the soft joints in the armour and the Aquila on the front. And the same thing goes for our Classic Marine, only we're not using Black Legion, we are in fact going to be using Abaddon Black for all of these exact same details. Just getting a nice coat of it all over, but not worrying too much because we will be doing a second thin coat as per usual. So with the Black Legion applied to our Contrast Plus Marine, what we need to do is shade it with some Nuln Oil. I'm going to apply that over the top of all of the Black Legion, whereas for our Classic Marine, we're just going to do that second layer of Abaddon Black all over the same details. We probably won't need to shade it, so we'll just apply that Abaddon Black second coat and it'll look awesome. So after Black Legion and Nuln Oil on our Contrast Marine and 2 layers of Abaddon Black on our Classic Marine, the black details are now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. They're looking pretty cool. There's not too much of a difference here. I think they pretty much look exactly the same, which is exactly what you want from an exercise such as this. Now, as you probably predicted at this point, things get a bit samey because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying Iron Warriors over the top of all of the silver details. We're going to be doing this across both, as this is something that we would normally do in Contrast Plus recipes, and well, we're not just going to change things now. Similarly, we're going to be applying Nuln Oil over the top of all of the silver details across both of our Contrast Plus and Classic Marines. Like I said, this is just what we do normally, so we're just going to replicate this across both. It's actually quite a classic, traditional way of doing things, which is what part of Contrast Plus is all about. And similarly to the silver, we're going to take some Retributor Armour. We're going to apply this over the top of all of the gold details. So this is going to be things like the bullets in the magazine and the teardrop on the shoulder pad of our Blood Angels. We're doing this across both, of course. And of course, with a base coat metallic applied, that means we need a shade across the metallic. So we're going to use some Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to apply this across all of the gold details. At this point, things deviate again. So for our Contrast Plus Marine, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Dark Angels Green. And we're going to apply this over the top of the eye lenses. It doesn't matter that they're red, because this will cover over nicely. Similarly, for the Classic Marine, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Caliban Green. And we're going to drop this over the top of the eye lenses, just like we've done on the Contrast Plus Marine with the Dark Angels Green. So for some reason at this point I swapped hands, just for this take I think, and you can tell that there is a difference here. We are at Warhipster battle ready, but again it's not too much of a distance. We've got slightly more kind of block shading with our recess shade on the Agrax Earthshade for our Classic Marine, and it's a slightly softer and warmer glow to the armour than we have on the Contrast Plus Marine over on the right hand side, but both look pretty awesome. Now, as is often the case in such things, highlighting these up will bring them closer together, and that's exactly what we're going to do next, because as you know, we don't leave things at Warhipster battle ready around here. We take things to the next level, and we do that by adding those highlights. Kicking off the highlights then, we are of course going to start on the largest colour here, and that is the red. Now the colour we're going to be using to highlight all of the armour is Evil Sunz Scarlet, and you're going to notice a little bit more of a starker highlight on the Classic Marine. It's going to be a little bit more blended in with the Contrast Marine, but that's because we've got that little bit more warmth on his armour, whereas it's a little bit colder over on our classic marine, so it's going to look a little bit more stark. That's how it works. But ultimately, it's going to bring both miniatures closer together. Once all those evil Sunz Scarlet highlights have been applied, we're going to apply a spot highlight across both of them. And this is going to be some thinned down Fire Dragon Bright. Now on our contrast marine, we can make these highlights just a little bit bigger and a little bit longer because, well, he's already quite warm, so we can take him up a little bit further in terms of the brightness. Whereas for our classic marine, we want to keep them quite subtle. We want to kind of apply them just to the tiny little corners and the sharpest details, as well as the kind of upward facing areas. So you can see on that shoulder pad, for example, that I've just done there, we've gone the whole way along on the contrast mini. And we're going to do the same thing on the neck, the gorget. Whereas on the classic marine, we're just being quite subtle with it. Just hitting those corners, just like that. Looks absolutely brilliant. With our red armour now all done, it's time to move on to the next big colour, which is the black details. And the colour we're going to be using to highlight, again, both miniatures, is some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm just going to be hitting the edges of all of the black details. You mostly want to focus here on the gun and on the Aquila on the chest, as well as the winged teardrop on the shoulder. You can get away with not doing this on the soft joints, but if you really want to take him to that next level, you just add a little bit of a highlight across the middle of each of those soft joints, the little ribbed bits. With the Dawnstone highlights applied to both miniatures, we then take some Administratum Grey. We apply this to the sharpest corners on all of the black details across both. There's no difference here. We're literally just looking for those little tiny corners just to add a little bit of a shine and a little bit of visual interest to all of the black details across both of our miniatures. Nice and simple, and it's really effective. It looks awesome. The black is now all finished, so it's time to highlight the metallics, and the colour we're going to be using first is Ironbreaker, and we're using this to highlight all of the silver details. Again, doing this across both. I know I keep repeating it, but it's worth repeating. And with those Ironbreaker highlights applied to all of the silver, we are then going to take some thinned down Liberator Gold. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the gold details. Now, the thing to point out here is that we're going to be relayering the gems. So this is the winged teardrop on the shoulder pad. It's not so much a highlight, it's just going all over. And that's important for the very next step. So with those metallic highlights now done and our gems relayered with the Liberator Gold, what we're going to do is we're going to apply some Blood Angels Red over the top of our Contrast Plus Marine's teardrop. Whereas for our classic marine, what we're going to do is we're going to use some Spirit Stone Red. This is a technical paint from Citadel. You don't see it used very often anymore because of contrast, but it's very nice. It has a little bit of a gloss finish to it as well, and it's perfect for doing gemstones just like this. And then finally, to finish off both our marines, we're going to take some Gauss Blaster Green, and we're going to apply this as a little line going across the middle towards the front of each of the eye lenses. Gives it that really nice glow in the Caliban Green and the Dark Angels Green. It looks absolutely fantastic just there. Look at that. Whoa. So just before we do our final unveiling of the Classic and the Contrast Plus Marine, because they're both finished now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about doing this, about what I experienced whilst I was going along. I really enjoyed myself, first and foremost. I think I managed to come out with two Marines that look almost identical. There is a slight difference in terms of tone, and that's just because of the nature of the paints that are being used. But we did go for that same primer at the same time, so it was nice and even. We could have gone for a black undercoated miniature for the classic painted model, which is how I used to do things. But I figured if I did that, we would be doing a lot more second coating and third coating and fourth coating, because base and layer paints just take a little bit of extra work to go over a much darker undercoat, whereas over the brighter undercoat, they're a lot easier to apply. That's why often with the metallics, you can pretty much get away with just one layer, although sometimes when it's a large detail, you will of course have to do two. So I was genuinely surprised about how well these miniatures came out, and I hope you are too. Let's take a look at that final spinning shot, and let's have our final thoughts. First up, we have Mr. Classic painted, of course. Here he is, looking resplendent in the red and black of the Legion / chapter. I think he looks really, really cool. I think that the red is a little bit darker, a little bit flatter, a little bit colder than we would get on our contrast marine. But one of the main benefits of doing things this way was doing those black details was really quite simple. It was very effective just to put 2 layers of Abaddon Black down and then do the highlights. It's very consistent and very kind of blocked in. This is kind of what you'd expect from black details on miniatures. And now we have Mr. Contrast Plus himself, looking absolutely resplendent in the red and black as well. I think the red is a lot nicer here. It's got that warmth underneath it. It's a lot more vibrant. I think it looks really, really awesome. But as mentioned, the black is very tricky to do. Black Legion is an amazing paint and it gets stuff done real quick, especially once you put that little shade over the top just to smooth things out. But it can be a little bit inconsistent the bigger the detail. So on smaller details like this, Abaddon Black was really, really quite simple and easy to apply, whereas Black Legion might be unnecessary. Finally, we put them both together and, well, you can see the differences. There is slight differences in tone and application, of course. It's very much pronounced when you look at that armor side by side, but it's almost just the kind of difference between warm and cold. And that's what I think is really refreshing about doing this, and it's just reminded me how powerful contrast paints are, but also how much fun it is to paint something classic every once in a while. I don't know, which one's your favourite? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this one and you'd like to see more like it, then do let me know down in the comments. I had a great time doing this myself, and I kind of want to do a few more, but it's just a matter of having the models and having the time. But if you guys really liked this, then I'll see if I can make space in the schedule. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all very soon in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you could become a YouTube member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these amazing, wonderful people have done. And if you really like this video or you just want to shoot me some support, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.